We have a question from a student, Marco Ustal, which is going to go to Secretary Clinton. What is the role of the United States in promoting gender equality around the world? Is it explicitly exemplary, or does the U.S. have a duty to intervene in cases of gross human rights abuse?
Well, I think it's very much in the interests of our country to be a leader on gender equality. And certainly that has been a continuing theme for a number of years, that it has to be both part of our foreign policy and part of our development and diplomacy efforts. So just in a quick set of examples, in the time I was at the State Department, we really embedded women's rights as part of our foreign policy in a number of ways. We not only talked a lot about it, we not only tried to support advocates and organizations around the world who were our allies, as well as governments that shared the same values. And we had a fund that we started in the Agency for International Development, USAID, on gender equality, particularly focused on the well-being and rights of the LGBTQ community, particularly in the face of drastic oppression, repression, campaigns against people that even included passing, in some places, the death penalty for the status of being LGBTQ. So our gender equality agenda at that time was very much front and center in the annual human rights report that the State Department issued. We included the assessment of how countries were dealing with women's rights. And we had a little bit of a break in the years following the Obama administration in terms of emphasizing women's rights and roles, but I'm happy to say that emphasis has returned. And in fact, under the Biden administration, the first government-wide gender equality agenda has been adopted. I don't know if Jen Klein from the White House is here, but she and her colleagues in the White House, including Rachel Vogelstein, who's a real scholar of women's rights and its development around the world, really spearheaded an effort that would be whole of government, and not only abroad, but at home. How do we do everything we can to ensure that we're not just adding and embedding women's rights in our foreign policy, but we are trying to be exemplary. You know, it is pretty hard to justify being one of the very few developed countries with no paid family leave, without an adequate, quality, affordable child care system. So we're trying to not only stand up, speak out against oppression, against discrimination, against violence against women, stand up for inclusion in every decision, particularly with climate change and other very demanding, urgent decisions. But we're also trying to make sure here at home we're doing more to lift up women's rights and our full participation in society. So I think it's fair to say that we're kind of, you know, back in the leadership role that we should always be in when it comes to standing up for women's rights, because at the end of the day, there is, as the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace, and Security includes in their curriculum and have done research on, there is a direct correlation between women's rights and women's full participation in society and democracy and the national security of the United States. So if we cannot persuade you that this should be done because it's a moral imperative and it's the right thing to do, and I think as you've heard, it's an incredible necessary step, literally in human history, then think about it from a very self-interested view about how we keep the United States and our interests front and center as well. So I'm encouraged that we're back in a leadership role, and I'm hoping that we will continue to not only demonstrate in our own country what that means, but be an ally for activists and courageous, committed women like the ones before you.
We have one last question I'm going to put to the three honorees, very brief response, and that comes from Sophia Hager, a student here at Georgetown. In what area